Rising tension in Minneapolis as demonstrators and agitators continue confronting and attempting to obstruct federal immigration enforcement. And it all comes as the investigation into Minnesota's fraud scandal grows even wider and deeper. Our Washington insider, Armstrong Williams, joining us now to discuss some of the big headlines on the Hill. Good morning to you, sir. We want to start off in Minnesota and really what's happening there. What do you make of the narrative that's coming out from some media outlets and also these agitators who continue trying to block law enforcement, which, as we know, will always be a losing battle?
Jan, we need to rewind where we were with the universities and the protests and how Trump eventually shut that down by shutting down the universities and their funding. 99% of the time, law enforcement don't commit these kind of intense where you shoot someone with a kill shot. And the narrative has become condemnation of law enforcement, condemnation of ICE. And what we don't realize is that these agitators, this dark hand that fuels this, have found another reason to divide and cause chaos in American cities. And so that has become our narrative. They have an agenda. They know they cannot destroy us by might, but they can destroy us within. And we're beginning to see this again because they've got something else to focus on. You never hear them protest when law enforcement or someone like that is killed. They only protest when it suits their agenda. And so we have to be very careful with the coverage and really do a deep dive on what's actually going here. This is the undermining of America.
And also the undermining of law enforcement, because we also have to protect our law enforcement that's out there risking their lives every single day. This is one of the hardest jobs, as you and I both know, for them.
It's a fact.
And this was all as a result of billions of taxpayer dollars in the state that were stolen in this massive fraud scheme that authorities are now uncovering was much larger in scope. And officials say in many of these cases it was illegal Somali immigrants who headed these operations, including that infamous Quality Learning Center, which we're looking at right now, the focus of that video by citizen journalist Nick Shirley. Why do you think this fraud was allowed to go on for so long there in Minnesota?
Jan, let's go back again. Let's rewind. What do you think AID was doing? What do you think these NGOs were doing? Funding terrorism. What do you think their agenda is? Their agenda is that they believe their morality is right, their righteousness is right. Tim Walz and Ilhan Omar had no issue funding terrorist organizations, funding these Somalis with America's money. They felt they deserved it. No one was going to say anything because when the whistleblowers did, they were fired. They lost their way of life. They're intimidated. It's not just in Minnesota. This goes on in many of these blue states. It's what's going on in this country. They're using our government resources to undermine us and to further debilitate us. And this fraud is just the tip of the iceberg.
Yeah,
this is what's happening to our country today.
And when you speak of funding these terrorist organizations, one area that we know is not being funded as well right now is Hezbollah and a lot of Iran's proxy organizations, a lot of Iran's proxy terrorist organizations, Hamas also. And internationally, Iran is facing this massive crisis with now protests from residents challenging the very survival of the Islamic Republic. So could we finally see the collapse of Iran, do you think?
You know, who better to tell the story of how people who live under these regimes every day than the people that are there who protest and rising up? They can say whatever about Trump encouraging this. You can say whatever you want to say about Iran. But Iran days are numbered. The Ayatollah's days are numbered. You just heard Hamas announce that they will not form a government in Gaza. They're going to turn to an independent Palestinian Authority. I mean, Hezbollah, Hamas, ISIS, they're losing their power. Why? Because the things that would support them, like Venezuela oil, Venezuela arms through Russia and China, those things have been disruptive. Criticize Trump all you want, but he's destroyed the very networks, deep-seated networks that they're determined to destroy America, and he has turned them on their head, and they're collapsing within.
And there's a lot more to come with Iran, as we know, this week. Now, Iran says they want to come to the negotiating table, so we'll see how that plays out. A lot happening in Washington. Armstrong, always great to talk to you, sir. Thanks for joining us this morning.
Thank you, Jan.
Tensions are running high in downtown Austin following an anti-ICE protest that organizers say led to multiple arrests. Tonight, those organizers are demanding accountability. CBS Austin's Farrah Walton is live outside of the Travis County Jail. Farrah, what can you tell us about the situation?
Well, Adela, members of Dare to Struggle Austin tell me they've been camping outside the Travis County Jail since 9 last night. And in a press conference this afternoon, they talked about what they're calling a brutal police response at last night's anti-ICE protest. Organizers say more than 100 people gathered last night in front of the J.J. Pickle Federal Building downtown to protest the killing of Renee Nicole Good, who was shot by an ICE agent in Minneapolis, Minnesota. The group says the Texas Department of Public Safety and the Austin Police Department brutally cracked down on protesters. They say officers charged into the crowd with bikes and fired pepper spray pellets into the crowd. Organizers say at least 7 people were arrested, including one person who they say was detained after the protest had ended while walking to their car. Now, the confrontations followed hours of escalating tensions between protesters and law enforcement, and when demonstrators were blocking traffic at a busy downtown intersection. What would you say to people who thought that maybe it wasn't okay that you guys went and blocked Congress and 6th Street?
I think that it's definitely not okay that people are dying in detention centers and getting shot by ICE agents. That's what's important, not traffic.
Meanwhile, Governor Greg Abbott responded to last night's protest on social media, writing Texas is not Minnesota and saying Texas DPS would not put up with defiant protesters. In a statement, he tells CBS Austin federal, state, and local law enforcement officers have the right to defend themselves while carrying out their lawful responsibility. Now, organizers tell us they haven't had much contact with the arrested protesters, but know that some of them have been in contact with lawyers. Reporting live in Austin, Farrah Walton, CBS Austin News.
Multiple people who were detained by Austin police in Saturday's protest against ICE are now out of jail tonight. Some of them gathered downtown at a vigil for Renee Good, who was shot and killed by an ICE officer in Minneapolis on Wednesday. CBS Austin's Vinny Martirano is live at the Travis County Jail after speaking with one of the detainees. Vinny, what can you tell us about his experience? What did he say?
Adela, Isa Gutierrez says he was arrested by Austin police Saturday and was going to be charged with obstructing traffic, but those charges were dropped. He says spending time inside the Travis County Jail was jarring.
A regret? None the slightest. I do not regret my actions whatsoever.
Isa Gutierrez says he and at least 4 others were detained by Austin police while protesting against ICE in downtown Austin.
There was that small moment that I may not come out of this. They might find a reason to keep me here longer, and that is what really terrified me the most.
Saturday night, a group of demonstrators marched to the intersection of East 6th Street and Congress Avenue, blocking traffic. That's when Austin police rushed into the crowd and detained multiple people.
I know it was hours, but it felt like days in a room where there was no windows. A light that was always on and slightly flickering was really affecting my mental health.
Gutierrez says he was in jail for a few hours, but he doesn't remember exactly for how long or when he was released. He says he was arrested on charges of obstructing traffic, but they were dropped. Today, he was greeted by many people waiting for him outside the Travis County Jail.
It filled me with joy, and most importantly, it filled me with strength. And it reminded me that what I did wasn't in vain.
Gutierrez and around 25 others came to a vigil in front of the Travis County Jail to honor Renee Good and Keith Porter, 2 people who were killed by ICE agents this year in Minnesota and in Portland. One of the organizers, Z, says it's important for people in Austin to stand together.
To see that I'm not the only one angry, I'm not the only one upset, I'm not the only one that feels the way I do about this, it was very relieving.
Now, earlier you could hear people a part of this vigil yelling into the Travis County Jail for the people who were still being held in there, saying, "We love you," and sharing what time it was and what the date was. We reached out to Austin Police and the Travis County Sheriffs for more details on some of these arrests made last night, but did not hear back. Reporting live in downtown Austin, Vinny Martirano, CBS Austin News.
People are coming together in this moment. ICE has been appointed to now be judge, jury, and executioner. That is not how we keep our communities safe.
Hundreds gathering for a vigil at Terry Shrunk Plaza in downtown Portland tonight to, as they put it, honor the victims and survivors of ICE and Border Patrol violence. The vigil follows that shooting involving federal officers here in Portland, as well as the fatal shooting we saw in Minneapolis by ICE agents the day prior. That claimed the life of 37-year-old Renee Good. And now, K2's Jennifer Singh joins us live in studio after attending that vigil. And Jen, a large emotional turnout there tonight. What else can you tell us about it?
Well, Barry, tonight's vigil was all about asking for accountability and justice for federal agents following the shootings in Portland and in Minneapolis. We heard from a number of speakers of local advocacy groups, as well as from city and state leaders who say they're ready to put up a fight.
No more waiting, please take action. No more waiting, please take action.
Terry Shrunk Plaza in downtown Portland, crowded Saturday night, honoring the victims and survivors of ICE and Border Patrol violence.
My people, we are ready.
The event starting out in song, community members then reading out victim impact statements of Portlanders who have directly been impacted by the recent actions of federal officers.
Our mission is to tear down the legal barriers that prevent our neighbors from participating fully in our community.
Among those in attendance, City Councilor Candace Avalos, Congresswoman Maxine Dexter, and State Senator Pham.
I am tired of watching people get hurt while those in power evade accountability.
It's important as an East Portland councilor, after everything we've been through in the last 48 hours, to be present, to offer my words, but also to offer opportunities for action.
Local representatives now calling for an independent investigation into Thursday's shooting in East Portland. The Oregon Department of Justice has announced it will look into the shooting, despite the FBI leading the investigation.
I think everybody deserves due process before we jump to allegations that are often rooted in racist misconceptions.
Audience members and event organizers echoing the demand for impartial answers.
We want a local investigation here into what happened in the shootings. We stand with communities across the United States who are facing similar threats.
Rounding out the evening, the passing of a flame, a signal of unity.
Guard our feet and guide our hearts on. With our strength we testify.
And now, even though we have since learned from DHS and Portland police that the two people shot in Thursday's shooting are tied to the Venezuelan gang Tren de Aragua, everyone I spoke with today tells me they believe the two still have a right to due process. Live in the studio, Jennifer Singh, K2 News.
Jennifer, thank you. And as she mentioned, both the men and woman shot by federal agents on Thursday have criminal records in Oregon. Court records that we found show the man, Luis Nino Moncada, has an open DUI case in Washington County and a number of speeding tickets in Multnomah County. DHS says he had a final order of removal. As for the woman, Yorlenes Zambrano Contreras, DHS says she entered the country illegally in 2023 and played an active role in a prostitution ring. They say that she was also involved in a July shooting in Portland, but did not say how. DHS also says, and Portland Police Chief Bob Day confirms, both have some connection to the Venezuelan gang Tren de Aragua. Also, court records show a judge granted Nino Moncada a protective order against Zambrano Contreras less than 2 months ago in late November after he told the court that she hit him with her car. We are continuing to ask federal agencies for more information about what led up to Thursday's shooting. The most recent statements from the White House and DHS say it was self-defense by the Border Patrol agents involved. A White House spokesperson told us two criminal illegal aliens, including a Tren de Aragua member with a final order of removal, attacked Border Patrol. This will not deter the administration from conducting lawful operations. Instead, it affirms the need to continue to keep Americans safe. Meanwhile, the Department of Homeland Security says there is a larger issue, saying our law enforcement officers are on the front lines, arresting terrorists, gang members, murderers, pedophiles, and rapists. They are facing a 1,300% increase in assaults against them, a 3,200% increase in vehicular assaults against them, and an 8,000% increase in death threats against them. The violence must end.